Hello, let me introduce myself. I'm Dr. Bill Wyatt, and I'm a member of the American Orthodontic Society. Now, this is a group of dentists that are dedicated to teaching orthodontics to general dentists and pedodontists or any other dentists that are concerned about learning orthodontics. Uh, I'm going to cover a subject now about uprighting teeth, and I want to show the mechanics of how to upright teeth first, and then we'll go into several cases where I'll show you the various things that we've done with this technique of uprighting teeth. This first part of this will just show the little spring that we use to upright teeth. I'm going to show you several pictures of this and how you make it. This is a rectangular wire here. It's a 1725 arch wire. So it's stainless steel. It's a regular stainless steel rectangular arch wire. And we take a tooth that is impacted or tilted over in almost any way you want, and you can straighten these teeth out using this technique. You have to bond a little tube or something on the side of the tooth, and this allows you to insert a spring like this going in, and it just makes a simple little loop and comes back out. And this is about as much activation as you can try, because you have to fit it into this little tube, and a lot of times we'll smooth the end of it down here so it'll slide in there easier. Now you raise this leg of the spring up and mark it where you're going to put this little hook. And so we pick this up, put a mark, we take it out of the mouth now, and bend this hook over and turns back in. You see, now we can slide it back into the slot again, then raise this up and hook it over this, and it'll have a kind of a little bow in it like that. When you do that, maybe we'll show that in the next one. So we picked it up and put it in. This is a little closer shot showing this part of the spring that goes up into the tube that you've stuck on the side of the tooth. Now this tube doesn't have to be parallel with the surface of the tooth. Actually, you could, if the tooth is setting more like this, you could put the tube something like this if you can't get to any other part of the tooth. And upright the tooth part of the way, and then bond the little tube onto another section of the tooth, and go ahead and pick the tooth up, and the tooth will end up with a space between the teeth, and it would be setting something like that when you get it setting up. This is a real nice way to upright the teeth. You don't even have to have the person in braces. Actually, if somebody comes in with a tooth tilted over like that, you can just bond a wire or about 3 or 4 teeth over here and mark this off and come in and put your little hook, and you can upright a tooth without any braces on it at all. You just need this one little tube that goes in this area right there when you go to do it. Now, once you get the tooth the spring bonded onto the tooth, and where you got the little pad on here and you put the spring in it and it's on there. Then you want to put more activation in it. So we have an instrument called a double optical plier, and you can take the optical plier, has a kind of a trough on one side and a little bar on the other side, and it's a double, it's kind of like brace like that, and this will be on one side and the other side, and you can take this side, push it in there, and then clamp this, and it'll bend this wire, maybe 30-40 degrees. It's how hard you clamp it here, and that will add activation to this already activated wire. Now, let me show another view. This is the blown up view. Now, looking at it from the top, if you've got braces on the other part of the tooth, or this tooth is inside, you can put this and then you can come out with a wire and then make the spring. You can make the little loop and then come out with it and then go back across and then come back up to the regular arch wire like that. Now, the hook would be placed, it's best if it's right close to this, because this tooth upright is going to go back and this hook will slide back till it gets to this tooth right here. Give it space enough, where the tooth can go ahead and upright and the spring will stay right in there like that. So that's just the spring again I want to show. Now, here we put the loop down. In some cases you might want to put the loop down, but most of them, nearly all of them, you're going to just turn it up like this. It's much more simple to do this. Now, if you're bending this particular little loop, it's a little different. You come down with the arch wire, make a 90-degree bend, and then you circle around, and then you come off of this. Normally you'd go in this direction, but you'd have a pretty hard time inserting because this leg will be sticking in the tissue down here. So maybe you set it like that. So now I can take this part of the wire and insert it in here, and then raise up, mark where you're going to put the little hook in it, and then you take it back out again, make the hook and everything, slip it back in, and then bring it over here and activate it, bring it up and hook the hook where you want it, same way as you did the other one. There may be cases where you want the hook down. It's kind of unusual. You most always will put the hook up like that, and we make one or two circles and it's not too important. It just makes it a lot gentler to activate one. It's got a couple of circles in it. Now, looking down on it from the top, it's same thing. Another view of looking down, and this one's got a rather long arm out here to raise it up and hook it. Again, the same thing with the loop going up. These are there are two pliers here, loop forming pliers. This is what we call a tweed loop former, and it has a little, well, we call both of them that. This one though is built here in the States. It's a very expensive plier, but it's the best loop former plier that is made as far as I know. This little insert comes with this, and it goes in, it has a little screw little Allen screw goes in here, tightens it up, and that's made out of some tough metal. I've never broken one of those, but they come with an extra one. You can slide one out, put another one in. This plier, the bending bar that comes out, it's in, this one's in 3 different diameters. This one has 3 diameters on it also, but the bar is made out of the same material the plier is made out of, and once it breaks, then the pliers, or bends, the plier isn't any good anymore. So the other one will hold up. Now this is the tweed loop plier, a little closer view of it. Most of the time we bend the loops that we form here, you make them here. If you're a real small one, you make it on this tip of it, and it holds the wire real good there while you bend it. Let me go back and erase that. Now, that's just a little, the other plier, it'll bend the loops too, very good. But if it ever bends away from this, that's where you can't hold it tight down here. It's kind of gives you a little problem making the loops. And if you break that tip off, you just have to get another plier. Now there they are, other views, different views of the pliers. Here we are bending this loop, and actually we bend it off of this. You put it up in there and tighten it up, and then you bend it more or less with your finger as you put pressure on the little loop. Put it in the mouth and it works great. Okay, here we are on a case that we didn't have braces on or anything. This is on the top of it on showing it. So we take about an 018 wire, maybe a 018, or you could use an 016 probably. And just a wire that won't bend down in here when you put pressure on it. So you put this in there, raise it up, decide you're going to put the hook right here, let it slide across this area, mark it, take it out, bend the loop, hook it back up, and then it has a certain amount of activation. You take it over here, put your optical plier, mash it, put about 30 more degrees, and now you've got quite a lot of pressure on this too. And I'll tell you, it'll upright just darn near anything you put it on. I've not found a tooth that you can't bring it up unless it would be totally, really ankylosed in there, then you couldn't move it. You'd have to break it loose, and then you could move it. But that's shaky business. You might lose a tooth in the process of cracking the adhesion that's holding the thing together, and they're holding it in place. Now it just shows how the hook's there and it slides apart. This is the optical plier that we use. There's also another smaller one that I don't have a picture of it right now, but anyway, this is the old original double optical plier, and everybody ought to have at least one of those. You can bend the ends of arch wires in right in the mouth, and you can activate any kind of wire if you want to make a bend in it with that optical plier. And you go from one side of the mouth to the other. It's a bar. You see, you use this side on the left of the mouth. You use this one over on the right side of the mouth. And there's nothing much to take its place. You could use a single optical plier if you could bring the cheek of the person back far enough where you could get this straight into the tooth, where you could reach the tooth from out in this direction, but you have to really stretch the cheek to do that. So it's, most of the time you'd end up at an angle, and then your bend isn't square, and it doesn't function as good. So anyway, this is the essential plier in my way of thinking. If you're going to do orthodontics, you're going to have one of those. So we reach in on the right side of the mouth, put that plier on this wire, and clamp it. You don't have to clamp it too much. If you clamp it real hard, you'd put 50, 60 degrees of bend in it, or maybe even more than that. So you put usually about 30 degrees, and that'll be what you have. You'll have a few degrees of operation when you activate it. So if you put about 30-degree bend in it, it'll be plenty of force to pick this tooth up and bring it back. And you have wisdom teeth behind them and various things, and they'll still go up. And don't grind the tooth off. If it hits the tooth up above, it'll push it down, and it'll still upright. Leave the tooth alone. Just stick that on it, upright it, and just stay there. The tooth will upright, and it'll be separated from this tooth. It'll be something like in here, and this tooth will come down and contact it and hold it in place, or if it raises up, the tooth will bring it down, or you bring it down after you get it in place and close the space between the two teeth. Okay, there's another view of this optical plier. Just crimping that wire down once it's in place. So now the wire would look like that. Now you can't insert that spring in there unless you had it activated. So you put it in and activate it, make your hook and everything, and then come in and put this added activation. See, that's probably, this would be 45 degrees, so that's close to 30 degrees or more. You put a little more, but you just do it kind of easy to start off with. If that doesn't move it, you can get them back and add some more pressure. Just take the plier and activate that a little more. Alright, there's the way it looks after the activation. But you do the activation in the mouth. You don't do it and then try to put it in. It'd be very difficult. Now there's your little tube you put on the side of the tooth. It has to be on the side of the tooth, and this tooth will just come straight up out of there. Now here's one my son sent in to me that somebody had been told how to activate them. You see this wire probably had a lot of spring pressure, and they put this on it and push this down and tie this little chain to that deal, but the chain is bonded on back here, so it's trying to pick the whole tooth up while the thing's laying down. It's just ridiculous. All you have to do is just to come over on this side of the tooth, bond something on there, put a spring in this area right here, and you raise it up, you put your hook on it, then put it back in the mouth, activate it, and activate it more here, and it'll just take that tooth right out of that spot. And this is ridiculous. Somebody just didn't really know mechanics, or didn't understand how that tooth needed to raise up when they built this thing. So there's all kind of other ways that we'll try to push this tooth backward, but the way that we're showing you is, to my way, the very best way to do it. If I could find a better way than that, I would certainly have taught it over the years, rather than the way that I'm teaching people to do this. So that is mechanical situation that somebody just didn't understand how the tooth moves. And they could put something like that on it, you see, and put a spring on it and come out, and it would just raise that tooth right out of that place without any messing around about it. There's in the mouth, my son took several pictures of it, and that's what you saw. Now, you would say, well, I couldn't get to it to bond this, but they made a big opening to bond that chain on there. If you'd have just come down a little further, there'll be a part of that tooth that was sitting in there kind of like that. And all you have to do is just bond something on the side of it over here. You may have to take electrosurge and remove some tissue like that to get to it. But if you're going to keep the tooth, you can take a lot of that tissue off of that tooth without any problem, and it stops the bleeding and bonds your little tube to the tooth just like you bonded that gold chain to it. Now here are some cases where we'll show a few of these, and I'll try to keep the time down on this. We've been in about a little over 20 minutes. This is the first case that I kind of learned the mechanics of it. We had treated this young lady, and I took out some bicuspids to treat her case. This is way back in the 70s when we had to band all the teeth, and I didn't have any brackets or tubes to bond on the tooth, so I had to come up with another way to do this. And we'd removed a tooth in here, so I wanted to save this wisdom tooth. She's got plenty of room for it. And I knew I had to work from the side of it, but I didn't have anything to do that I could bond on there. But I could bond down in the occlusal surface of the tooth, so I etched, and the only bonding material I had was acrylic in powder and liquid form, and we could etch a tooth of the surface of a tooth and take a little acrylic powder and liquid on the brush and go back and put it on the tooth and bond something to it. So I bonded a little wire down in this part of the tooth, and it came around over here and then made a spring, you see, that we would bend down, and this spring went out and something like this, and then came back up and hooked it over here, and the spring was working just like our tube over here, but it was bonded to the surface of the tooth right there, and it's going to take this tooth out of there, and I'll show it to you just another slide or two. There you're looking down at it from the occlusal surface. When I bonded the wire down in here, I had to be very careful not to get in the acrylic and bond this tooth to the other tooth to do that. So that, and I took a picture of the spring, and it came back. This is when you just had photographs and no digital cameras. And here's the spring. When I activate this, actually this bar would go down this way, and I pulled this up and tied it together, and then just stuck this down in the occlusal surface of that tooth and bonded it onto that. And then I raise this up and put it on the tooth, and then cut this spring, cut this wire that I had it tied in activation, and it turned the spring loose to elevate the tooth. So here it was, and we didn't use the hook fashion that day. I raised this up and laid the wire right into the tops of the brackets and kind of held it on there. And then cut this, and it takes that tooth right out of that hole. The mechanical advantage there is the same as if I had bonded this tube on the side of the tooth there. See? Now here it is, another view, and I laid the wire on top of these teeth. And it's going to push down on the molars bicuspids over here, and that's where you get the force that picks this tooth up and pushes it. It raising it up, it rotates on that point down where the roots are in the bone, and the crown of the tooth actually backs up. Here it is from the top again, and some time skipped in here, but it took, I'm sure, several months for me to do that. But here, this is in 1974, and I had probably treated this girl for probably close to a couple of years. I don't remember exactly, but before I saw that, I wanted to keep that wisdom tooth, so we uprighted that at that time. Now you can look back and see the tooth is set up straight up, and then we kind of moved it forward. It'll kind of move forward on its own, and this is a 6-year molar. I've got several views of it. So this is where I really learned how to do this kind of thing. Pause. I'm afraid we haven't been recording. I'm going to stop the recording.